Well, welcome back. My name is Sam, or Erfaren, and I would say that today we're going to get around to building more things, but after building the villa last episode, I found out, realized we're going to run out of bricks so fast. So today, I had an idea that I'm very proud of to create a clay generator that feeds into our tree, our automated wood farm over at the industrial district, feeds into it to automatically mine the clay blocks for us. And then we have a bunch of clay that we could then, maybe not this episode, but figure out putting into a super smelter, which will get us tons of bricks really quickly whenever we need them. And then we can build whatever we want without having to worry about running out of bricks, because this took so much brick. So first thing that we'll do is let's fly over to the industrial area. And actually, before we do that, let's maybe grab ourselves any amount of rockets. Anyway, as I was saying, we're going to head on over to the industrial area so I can show you exactly what I'm thinking. So the idea, it changes a little bit of the layout right here, in that we're going to completely remove this walkway and this walkway. And we don't technically have to remove this staircase, but there's going to be no point for the staircase, so the staircase is going to go too. But essentially what's going to happen is we're going to set up a mud generator down here that's going to feed mud this way into this big conveyor belt that's going to funnel and create clay from the mud using dripstone. And then put it right about here for the TNT to then blow up. And then all of the drops from that will funnel into these chests, which might clog those chests if we do too much work, or, too much clay. But it at least gives us a much easier way to collect clay than having to go and find a bunch of different lush caves, which, granted, we have a ton of lush caves around, so this is, like, not fully necessary. But I thought it would be a cool idea to try. And while it's a culmination of a bunch of other people's design ideas, putting it all into one thing is something that I have not seen anybody else do. So I'm proud to say that that will be my own decision. But what we need to do before we can do this is we are going to need about 4.5 stacks of dripstone and about 4.5 stacks of glass. The rest we can kind of figure out. But to start this, we're probably going to need to go and just see how much sand we have remaining to create glass with. And then we're going to need to go find a dripstone cave to get as much dripstone as we possibly can. All right, the good news is we have 3 stacks of sand remaining. So not perfectly enough to get us as much glass as we need, but it only means we have to get a stack and a half more sand. So that is great to see. We'll drop that back in there. As for the redstone pieces, we are going to need something like 64 pistons, which if we have enough cobblestone, I think we should definitely be able to make. But that would be one of the tight ones. Redstone repeaters were already set on. Everything else we're already set on. It's those pistons that we're going to need a bunch of. So I'm going to take this box back over to the base. And then we're going to see if we can't get some more some more pistons put together. We've absolutely got a ton of cobblestone, so I think we're gonna be okay. The thing I'm actually interested to see if we have enough of is dirt for all of the clay work that we're gonna want to do. I mean, that's probably fine, right? I'm gonna assume that's fine. I'm also gonna drop all this stuff over here so that it's not crowding up our inventory anymore. All right, so what do we need to make pistons? For pistons, we need iron, redstone, and a lot of cobblestone. Well, we got a bunch of iron here, we got a bunch of redstone in our inventories, and we got a bunch of cobblestone here. So I'm just going to grab 3 of these stacks. Will get me 64. And let's see what else we can get done with this. We've only got a little bit of... Oh, what am I saying? We got a ton of redstone. We're going to be golden. And then we're going to need blocks of iron, which we only need 164 of, but we'll just take all of that, I suppose. And finally, we're going to need wood. So let's throw all of this down and see what we've got for wood. I don't think we have many. Yeah, we don't. Okay, we're grabbing some logs then. We're going to use these. We're definitely going to need more than that. So we're just gonna drop that over there like that never happened. And let's grab the acacia logs here. That's much better. All right, let's get ourselves a lot of pistons. Okay, so we're just over 64. That is just fine. Let's get everything back up and organized. And then I say, let's go find ourselves a dripstone cave. And I was looking for coal the other day. I swore I saw dripstone in one of these. And I think I just like blew it off, but I'm pretty sure it's down here that we had at least some dripstone. It's not going to be a lot, but it's something to at least get us started. Maybe I just saw the granite. I'm not really seeing dripstone down here. I guess we'll do a little jump down and just look around. This is beautiful. While it does look cool, I'm not seeing dripstone anywhere at this time. However, I think we're a little too far into this cave now to necessarily back out. Oh, there's an opening over here. Okay. Well, we can, worst case scenario, we'll come back up, but let's just do a dive and see. We've got a lush cave over here. So, I mean, wow, this thing's huge. Here's a great place for us to stop and get some clay if we wanted to. Kind of defeats the purpose of, you know, getting the clay generator built up, but I mean, we're here. I mean, this thing is beautiful, though. Yeah, you know what? Why not? Why not grab some? I don't think we have... Yeah, I guess we could use this one that's already got some clay balls in it. And we'll just fill up the rest of this space. Just really quick, while we're down here. Alrighty, that was quick and easy. But now we've got this filled up. I just threw those extra bricks, which is maybe a waste, but that's okay. We've got this all nice and filled up though, so we'll drop that back in there. And now we can actually jump out of here and go try and find some dripstone as we as we were planning on doing. Something else we really need to figure out is gold, so that we can have golden carrots, because we are currently living off of bread, which is not really doing us all too well. So that's another thing I'd love to try and figure out here in the next couple of episodes, because I don't know how much longer we can survive off of just bread. There we go. Now this looks like a place that we could maybe find a stack of pointed dripstone. So let's go ahead and mine some of this up. Alrighty, I grabbed a little bit more than a stack just in case we needed it. But we've got ourselves, yeah, 64 and some. We should need exactly 64, if not even just a little bit less. So we'll leave all this to grow, and that way, if we ever need more, we know exactly where to find it. And also, this is such a cool cave entrance. See this little crack right here? That's so fun. And the good thing is, spawn is just right over here, so we are nice and close to everything, which is fantastic. So the last thing that we need before we can get started on this is that last stack of glass. So we need to run right on over this way, back to the desert, so that we can get that last stack and a half, honestly, probably 2 stacks of glass. And that way we're just ready to go and we can get this build underway. All right, we are back to our little digging area. And we gotta be a little careful because the diamond shovel's looking a little worse for wear. But I'm gonna bet if we just do just a quick pass through like this, we are gonna have all of the sand that we could need. I'm gonna stop right here and we're just gonna go pick all this stuff up. And I bet we are already ready to go. Boom. Look at that. There we go. Here, we'll do one more so we can get the last little bit. Nice. All right. It's an old bed. Eh, we may as well sleep there. Why not? It's a new day. Let's get ourselves right on over. to the industrial district. We'll get this glass cooking up, and then I'm going to do a little more of a technical walkthrough of this build today so that you understand the redstone behind it. So I know it's a little bit of a different speed. Last episode was very building heavy. This episode is going to be redstone heavy. So I hope you enjoy kind of the contrast there. But I thought it would be a fun way to explain what I'm doing while also making sure I actually get it done. There she is. So first things first, I hope there's coal in these. Because if there's not, we're going to need to figure that out. Oh, there is. Okay. And some copper, apparently. Grab all that stuff. All right. Well, let's go ahead and drop in the sand. I'm also going to put this down. I know there's one right behind me, too. But we'll go ahead and get all of this sand smelting up. And then once that is all ready to go, we'll turn our attention over here. But until then, I am going to get this path torn down. Okay, so we got that handled. While this is still cooking, what we're going to do now is we're going to build a little bit of an addition to this collection system because the farm actually overhangs a little bit off of the edge of this so that it lines up better with the TNT and also doesn't destroy the farm itself. So what we're going to do is we are going to start by just building over all of this right here. And we'll take it out one block further than the edge. And that way we've got ourselves a little too wide thing hanging off the edge of this that will then flow down into here. We'll take this all the way down and around like this. So then from here, what we need to do is we need to set ourselves a line of signs, and they are just going to lay right across here. So the water that we place here does not mess up how the water flows down there. So let's run and see what we've got for signs. We're going to need 13 of them. So if we don't have 13 already made, we're going to make ourselves 13 signs. And it looks like we have 16 right here. So we'll pop back up here. Swim up this. And then we'll get to placing some signs. All right, there we go. The signs are placed. The next thing to do is grab some water. So we'll grab, I believe we only need 2 buckets of water. I don't even think we need more than that. I don't know why it's not filling in this block. We're definitely going to want it to do that. Oh, I see the issue. It's because I'm silly. Water's not going to flow there. Water's not going to flow there because I put an extra sign there. Okay, there we go. So we've got those sorted. We'll go ahead and grab our... here, I'll make a brief extra water source here. Go. Get rid of these. And now we've got a system that sends anything straight down there without interfering with the system that already exists. Which is fantastic. It's exactly what we needed. There it is. So the next thing that we need to do, while this is all cooking up, we can kind of get to work on it. But the next thing that we're going to do is build ourselves the actual mud generator. And I think spacing wise, could probably do it right about here to go out from. I think I'm just going to kind of follow the flow of this, but we're only going to go up, I think, 1 step. I don't really want to do more than that. Sweet. Okay, so with this set, what we can do now is we can run back over to our chest and grab our redstone, and then we'll get the mud generator portion of this set up while the rest of the glass is cooking. We'll need, well, I guess we can take this first stack of glass. We'll need at least some glass for this, but we won't need nearly as much as we will for the rest of this project. And it really is this simple. These are all of the materials that I need for this part of the build. So let's pop on over here. Suppose it doesn't really matter where this goes. So essentially how this works is we have this little redstone torch, and by placing a block on top of it, the block that we place on this is going to power a circuit that pushes a piston and fires a dropper at the same time that will then turn the block ahead of it into mud. This all sounds really complex when I'm explaining it, but when you see it, it's going to make a whole lot more sense. So let me go ahead and throw this together really quick. Alrighty, so we got the first portion of this system set up. And essentially how it works is I walk up to it right here and I place a block right on top of this torch, which then is going to power this redstone. And like I said, it's going to make this piston push and it's going to fire this dispenser at the same time and turn this into mud, like this. And so doing this creates a line of mud that we are then going to take and feed into our conveyor belt that will dry it out and turn it all into clay. The design for this part of the build is by Jax and Wild. Definitely go check out their video. They have a manual clay generator, and you know, you can just go and mine it with a shovel. And that's where I got this portion of the build. So if you're interested, go check out their video. But this is the first part, and this, as all pistons can only push out 12 blocks. So we're going to limit it to right about here, I'd say, where we're going to have another piston activate and push it this way to feed into the actual conveyor belt, which is the next part of this build that we are about to get to, but we still need to get some more glass. So I got the next part started. So you see it comes in here, and I'll do a little demo here. So it pushes one out, and then that fires as soon as this block touches, because again, same thing, it powers this, which powers this and pushes it this way. So now what we're setting up over here is the first line that will push blocks this way to their drying stations. So what I need to do is just finish filling this out. And this is actually, I've cut off one block from the design that I had worked on in my testing world. Where I'm standing, technically this is still the first block, but there's actually a gap here in the original version that I made. So we're going to see if this actually works by filling this up with dirt and hoping that it activates, which we will find out when I remember that I need to put some of the blocks actually into place. So let's do that really quickly. Now that we got the redstone in place, let's give this a test and see if it works. Now here's the issue. It did work, but this is not filling up, which means that we're having a problem somewhere, and I'm not sure. Oh! I've found our problem. I just completely forgot to even power this right here. So we haven't even been feeding in new bottles over here, which is why these are all still dirt, which I don't know how I didn't notice that until right now, but let's try this again. Okay, now we've got this reset. Let's see if that actually powers this and submits a new one. It looks like it is perfect. That is keeping it full. All right, so how this works, like I said, is we'll sit here and we'll fill this with dirt, all the dirt that we have. And as it goes down, you can see it's now getting shoved by one piston into another piston line. And as soon as this next one goes, I believe is the right count, the other piston down here is going to fire and push it out that way. Boom, there it goes. So, oh, perfect basket there. So now what's going to happen is we are going to build an 8x8 platform, and this will be the start of that 8x8 platform. All of these will now have little pieces of dripstone under them, which will dry them out and turn them into clay instead of just being mud. So that's the next piece that I am going to get added to this, and then I will explain how this conveyor belt feeds its way up to the TNT section. So there you have it. So now we got this little glass platform with all of our dripstone on it. I did realize while I was building this that I am in fact going to need like 4 more stacks of dripstone. I didn't really think about the fact that I needed a stack of dripstone for each of these platforms. So I'm going to run and get some more of that while everything continues to smelt. But as you can see here, as the mud sits on these, the dripstone actually causes it to dry out and turn into clay. So we do a couple loops of this so that all of these have enough time to turn into clay, because this system, when it's actually fully working, moves pretty fast and doesn't actually give it a lot of time to turn into clay. So we'll have it do a couple loops, and then eventually on the last loop, we'll just shove it until it gets into the TNT range, and it'll automatically mine our clay and some mud, but mostly the clay. So now that this one has gotten all the way to the end here, The next piece of this build is actually a system that pushes all of these up a couple blocks to the next level. So what we need to do to activate this is we actually set up an observer that faces into this block that'll create a 1-tick pulse that goes up, and that way it doesn't create another pulse when it sees the pistons firing. Essentially, it's just a fancy way to line it up so that it doesn't cause an endless loop of pulses. So we'll go grab our observer. We're going to make a couple more of these. And then let's go ahead and get this system set up. So like I said, this observer faces right into this block, just like that. And then this is going to fire a pulse into a line of redstone that will go right around the back of this, just like this. So let's go ahead. We'll drop a repeater in there and a line of redstone dust. And then that part of the system will be activated. And essentially everything that we've done here, we're just going to repeat a couple times going up with some slight variances just based on the layer that we're working on. So we'll do this. And now just fire this all the way down. And then I am going to go ahead and remove this block. And we'll just place in a general piece of dirt so you can see how that works. And now let's go and do one more row so that you can see that piece pop up. And there you go. So anytime that a new row fills, this observer is going to fire these pistons up. And if any of the blocks are on those pistons, they will now get pushed upward. So the next layer that we're going to do actually is going to be right here for the dripstone and right here for the glass. So we do need to let it go up one more block before we put in our next set of pistons to push it this way. Perfect. All right. So there is our second layer. So now what we're going to do is we are going to pop back up here again. And we actually, before we do that, are going to need one more observer. So let's just go ahead and make a bunch of observers while we're right here. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to place an observer, effectively just like we did with this one, where instead of it being at the layer where we'll start pushing, it's going to be at the layer under it. Again, that way it doesn't catch any of the firing of the pistons and do an accidental loop of fires. So we'll place this temporary block, get that one set, and then we can get our line placed here. Again, we'll do 8. And then the observer, we will have face right into this, which again, we have removed that block, but we'll put that block back here in a second. Perfect. And then I don't want trying to not waste any blocks here. So we'll grab that. And now we can go feed in a little more dirt so we can see what happens when that piston fires. So you see now, there it goes. So because there was movement sensed by this observer, it sent a 1-tick pulse up to here, which fired these and allowed these to move over here and continue the drying process. And as you can see, the drying process actually is working pretty well for these. I don't know if my tick speed is set incorrectly in the redstone world, but this is actually working far better than I was anticipating it. So what's going to happen now is we are going to go ahead and just pretend like this row has filled all the way in. And I'm going to go ahead and get the next layer set up over here for our pistons. And just like the layer below, we'll do that. And now we've got our next line. So you'll see here, if I place this block, it does a 1-tick pulse. Move the block, it does a 1-tick pulse. And then, like I was explaining earlier, I actually explained it backwards. So what's going to happen is we're going to push this layer up, and instead of it being another 8x8, it's actually going to go a little bit shorter so that the top layer, because pistons can only push 12 blocks, we are going to make it so the top layer actually lines up about here and can push the clay further out into the blast radius of the TNT, because otherwise we're not going to get any of this clay mined efficiently. And obviously that's the biggest goal of this, is to have the clay mined efficiently. So this is all set. What we can do now is we can feed through some more dirt, and get this completely filled up. I gotta say, this is a really, really great way to get rid of some of the extra dirt that's just lying around. Okay, so I went through and I placed a bunch of dirt. I actually went and grabbed a load of dirt so that we can keep working on this. So you'll see now, this is all lined up right here. And the next thing we need is to get it all pushed that way. And while this is going to seem really, really sketch, because this is about to be built over what is right here, this is all built correctly. This is exactly how it's designed. It's just a little close to where all of this stuff is going on. So you'll see what I mean here in a second. Perfect. So this row is set. Next thing we need to do, of course, is place in our next line of glass. So let's go grab that really quick, trade out maybe some of this dirt for glass. And like I said, this section needs to be a little bit smaller. So instead of having it line up to be a 8x8 section, we're instead going to have it line up to be an 8x5 section, as you can see here, which, yeah, significantly shorter than the others, but it gives it just enough space to get it over into the blast radius at the tree farm. So with that in place, you can already guess the next thing that we got to do is we have to place the next row of pistons right here, just a little bit closer than they had been previously. So we'll get these all set here. And while I did go ahead and for all of these do a level of 3 up and then 1 over, we are going to let this go 4 up and then 1 over because I did build this 1 block lower than I did in the original design, and I just want to keep the height the same so that if there's any interactions with the TNT, nothing that we've built is going to be hurt by missing a block. So that's something that we are going to do that's just slightly different on this layer. But if I built it just 1 block up, that wouldn't be a problem. I just am doing this out of an abundance of caution at this point. So like I said, this is going to be, instead of going 1, 2, 3, and then over on 4, it's going to go 4 and then over. So we're going to have ourselves just 1 extra space here. This is where the glass will be. This is where the dripstone will be, instead of how it has been down below up to this point. And this layer, we will build all the way out to be that 8x8. Sweet. With this layer done, that means we only have 1 more piston array that we need to set up there. But it looks like we need to grab some more deep slate before we do that, because I am just trying to keep this all in the same block palette that we've been using over here. So let's just grab some of this really quick and get that into deep slate. Perfect. Okay. And with this last piece of redstone, all of the redstone for this build is now complete. So the rest of this is really just funneling dirt through and hoping that it doesn't blow up all of our hard work once it gets to this end. So I guess without further ado, I'm going to turn this on. Let's put on a time lapse and let's see if we can't get this to work. Okay, well, I've put in 3 stacks now, and it looks to me like nothing was destroyed. We may have a straggler for clay that we can figure out later, but let's see what we were able to mine just from that brief stint. I mean, okay, it looks like some even fell on me. I mean, look at that. That's not too bad. I mean, that was just me sitting down there and just pressing buttons for a little bit. That turned out... That actually was better than I thought it was going to be. I do want to figure out how we can prevent this, but it seems like everything's holding together exactly how it should be. So that I would call a success. I do just want to give a brief shout out to all of the creators who I used ideas from for this. This culmination of things has turned into something I'm very proud of and I think looks really awesome. So again, I just want to give a shout out to Jackson Wild, for the mud generator. And then I want to give a shout out to Potato Noir for this kind of belt feeder clay generator design. I saw it in a short and I thought it was awesome. And it was the perfect way to bring all of this up here and get it all to dry out by the time it makes it up. I mean, look at that. That's like almost perfectly dry. And then finally, of course, to ENX04 for the tree farm, which we are now dual purposing as a clay farm and a tree farm so that we don't have to make yet another TNT duplicator. I am so happy with this. What I should have been doing this whole time is running this farm. So I'm going to turn this on while we're still here. But let me show you all how this works from my end, since you all saw it kind of from the outside end. So what happens is I turn on the tree farm like you would to mine trees. It starts dropping its TNT. I run down here and grab just a stack of dirt from here, and I just sit here and click. And this does the rest for me. Now, I do have to be careful with my timing, because if let's say I just want to sit here and hold down, that's not going to work. If I try and change my angle up and do it, it places blocks elsewhere. So there is actually some set timing that you have to do to this, regardless of whether you're in the water or up there with it. But essentially, yeah, what I just do is I just sit here and I just press this pretty much on the dot of the piston pulling back, and the machine does the rest of the work. And I think that is pretty awesome. So you can see in the time that we've been here, I'll do it one more time. That was the third push, and then here will be the fourth push of blocks going up. So there those go. If we run back up and take a look, you'll see them all getting mined, which is awesome. Obviously, there are going to be some stragglers of mud. That's fully something I expect. I am totally fine with that. We're going to need mud for pathways and things anyway. But for the most part, it seems like we're getting more clay out of this than anything. And that is the biggest goal I had for this project. So I'd call that pretty good. I am going to turn this off, though, so that we don't have TNT exploding in our ears. I'm also glad to see that I did do the spacing right, and we're not losing any blocks to TNT explosions. That does feel pretty good. Perfect. Well, I am going to sit here and I'm going to make a lot of clay so that we're ready to go. And then next episode, I think we figure out a super smelter so that we can get all this clay turned into bricks, and we're ready to go for the rest of this village flip. I know this was a little bit of a strange interlude, going from heavy building to redstone, but I hope you're understanding that all of this, every single bit of this, has to do with the next steps in the village flip. And I'm very excited about it. I'm also just happy to be back over in this area. I feel like we haven't spent much time over here recently. Actually, hold on. Not only have we not spent a lot of time over here recently, you know what we haven't seen in a little while? There it is. I've been back here obviously a couple times to get some materials, but we haven't been back over here in a couple episodes. So I just wanted to come back over here for today's outro. It's such an awesome place. I love this base so much. Wow. All right. Well, as I alluded to, that is all the time that I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope you're excited about this design as I am. I'd been sitting and thinking of how I could get brick and a lot of it. And I started thinking about the fact that we already had a TNT duplicator and that maybe there was a way I could feed clay into it. And now look at us. We got ourselves our very own little design for a little clay generator and self miner. And I am so happy about that. So anyway, I will stop blabbling about my achievements and being proud of myself. I thank you all so much for watching. If you're new or find yourself coming back, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you around. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you soon.